Thank you, Ramona. Are we expecting anyone else? I heard a bit of that conversation as I was leaving. But
I haven't heard from anyone else. Tanisha, or okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I've called it to order. Are there any members of the public, or do we have any comments from the public, Ramona?
There are no members of the public here, and to my knowledge, no comments from the public have been received.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval. Oh, that was.
Andy, would you like the motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Robert, second. Kellen, thank you very much. Any discussion? Again, Wendy, I remain grateful for your vigilant services and thank you. If there is no other discussion, I'd like to vote on the motion. All those in favor of approving the minutes, thank you very much. Opposed? Thank you, Kellen. Abstaining? None. I declare the minutes unanimously approved then. Thank you. Item 4 is old business. Ramona, I'd ask you if there's any good news you can update us on, if you would, please.
Yes, very good news. We have received news in the past couple of weeks that our grant applications for American Rescue Plan Act funding through the city's ARPA task force was approved. So a $250,000 grant for improvements to our lobby, for our restrooms and ADA improvements in the lobby area. And then a collaborative grant that we put together with Middletown Recreation and Senior Services and Middletown Arts and Culture Office for $491,000. That's a 3-year grant for collaborative programming that we will bring out into the community to bring the community back together post-pandemic, and also hopefully leave those breadcrumbs to get folks coming back into our facilities, specifically but not limited to the Russell Library, the new recreation center that's going live this fall, the senior center, and other venues. We also, so I had emailed the board about that, so our current trustees will be very familiar with that. We also we recently received word from the Community Foundation of Middlesex County that we received a $250 pop-up grant. So that was a nice little surprise, and we're looking for ways that we can maximize and leverage that in the community as well. Let's see, we received $3,100 from the Rockfall Foundation back along to install our story walk at Crystal Lake, which is up. Many thanks to the Parks Division, Public Works, Recreation for helping us to install that. They did a fantastic job. It's already getting a lot of traffic and a lot of notice. And Lynn, I can't remember if if I'm forgetting any other grants that we've received since our last meeting.
Well, you mentioned the 3,100 from March. We also received the 755 for large print from the Community Foundation in March.
Yes.
And in April, the 3251 for Borrow-It.
Yes, so the Borrow-It funds are a reimbursement that we receive from the state of Connecticut through the state library. Every library in Connecticut, every public library participates in reciprocal borrowing. So every year there's a formula that the state library follows. It's based on the number of net loans that your library makes to non-residents. And so to reimburse the libraries, it's really a partial reimbursement for the actual costs. We get a check from the state library every year. And this year it was what, Lynn? 3,200
3251.
3251 from the state. Thank you.
Yep.
Is the 3-year grant of a few $100,000, is that reimbursable, or do we get the money up front?
I believe we get the money up front. I'm 99% sure. Kathy Lekowitz, who is the director of Recreation and Senior Services, had reached out to the city the other day to ask that question, how the funding will work. They're not quite sure yet. Remember, this is federal funding that's filtered down through the various layers to the municipality. So we are not sure exactly how that funding structure will work yet. However, I don't think it's one of the reimbursable type grants like the CDBG grant is. But I can't speak 100% certain on that.
Well, I would think if it is not a reimbursable grant, there ought to be some discussion and decision as to how to invest that money over a 3-year period, so we earn something on it. If we get it all at once, and in
My understanding, and again, I'm not even sure if the money will come to us first. It might be held in a city account, right? So we're not sure about those details for either of the grants that the ARPA grants that the library was involved in or is involved in. So
fair enough.
It's my recollection that we have a savings account for those grants, but probably it earns no income at all, Bob. So point well taken.
Mhm.
Yes, Wendy, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, this isn't a grant, but I know Ramona told us about the big discount on the E-rate, which is going to save the library a lot of money.
yes, our digital and emerging technology staff and Lynn and Brandy and a whole bunch of other people worked very, very hard for weeks and months on the federal application process for E-rate discounts. And so because of a federal formula that is applied to every community, based on demographics, income, mostly that sort of thing, we actually will be getting an 80% discount on a variety of network and IT services that we are desperately needed by the library. And because they work so hard to get these discounts on these services, we'll be able to do a lot more than we normally might have done without the discounts, obviously. So it was a lot of work, putting these 4, I think it was 4 applications together for 4 different projects, and they were all approved for the discounts. So very exciting, and many congrats to the staff. It's a huge amount of work, as you can imagine, working with the federal government on that.
Well, that's exciting. I don't think we need a budget anymore. I think we need a budget and just live off grants.
We sure could. Yeah, we could do something.
Okay. When you have more information on the flow of funds for that thing, keep us in the loop, please.
Yep.
Giving Day, you were successful there also?
We were. We raised just over $6,000 for Library Giving Day back in April, and we had just over 100 donors. So it's wonderful. We didn't do as huge a splash this year as we did our first year, but we still got a lot of engagement and a wonderful rate of giving. So very excited to see that happen.
Thank you, Brandy, and your staff and everybody for their hard work on that. Budget, do you want to make the announcement? What's passed?
Yes, sure. Well, our budget, along with the other City of Middletown operating lines, was approved on Tuesday evening by the Common Council. That is a flat budget. However, absent of contractual salary increases, union and non-union salary increases. So we will be working with the same roughly $850,000 in non-contractual expenditures as we have for the last 6 years running.
If the committee remembers, we sent in a special letter signed by the board requesting an additional $64,000 to go above flat rate, and that was not adopted by the Common Council. So it is the flat rate budget. I would like to discuss this briefly more in our executive session, but it's good news that the budget was adopted without change. Thank you.
It was, and we also did in our packet, Lynn put in a draft of the fiscal 23 Russell Library Company budget. I think, Lynn, you did have one adjustment that you wanted to make that did not make it into this particular version.
Right. So grants, the grant income and expense, they're usually budgeted at the same amount. And there's a little bit of a discrepancy, so we'll have to do some work on that. I think that might be the only adjustment we might have unless.
The one
anything
I'm
else
looking at
comes up.
says 10,000. Are you saying that changes?
Right, so we budgeted grant income at 10,000, but we budgeted on the backside of the page, if you're looking at a hard copy, Andy.
Yes, I am.
Okay,
So-
Ramona has it up on the screen as well.
Expenditures at 25.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay.
So that just has to match. Sorry for scrolling so fast here. So one item of note under our income categories, FOL means Friends of the Library. I want to be very clear and enthusiastic in my thanks to our Friends of the Library, because they have informed us that they are willing to give us $20,000 for next fiscal year for the months of September through June. Incredibly generous of them. We were not expecting that much. They've obviously had a challenging couple of years for fundraising, but they've been creative and hardworking and a lot of fun to work with. So that was really a wonderful piece of news to hear, that that's going to be their contribution the coming year. And remember, they already also gave us $5,000 to get us through this summer reading program. So it's a commitment of $25,000 that they've made just for the next year or so.
They're truly our friends. Thank you very
They
much.
really are. They really are.
Well, one of the things I think we'll have to keep an eye on is for fiscal 23 is the amount available, the percent from the 12-quarter moving average of the endowment, given that the endowment has continued to suffer as everybody else has, declines. And even though it'll be mitigated somewhat by the moving average rather than the absolute figure for the year, is something that is not going to go up in 23 as it is preliminarily stated in the budget.
Now, that 57,175 won't be a real number, I don't think.
That's correct.
I agree with you, Bob.
So I noticed that would you like me to stop sharing the screen, or I can for now? Actually. So our in the packet, let's see. Lynn has put together the calculation of the withdrawal amount, and at the bottom of the page is our spending policy. And it says that the 12-quarter rolling average is based on the quarters prior to January 1st of each year. So, which was a good reminder to me. So are we technically supposed to be calculating it based on what was in place, or what the 12-quarter average was as of January, or has that been flexible in recent years that people can remember?
I don't remember. Lynn would have a much better sense than I would, and I think that's important, but I think we may want to think about what that figure is, given where the markets are and where they may be going.
Okay, so I use the exact same formula that we have been using all along.
Yep.
So it's just not picking up January, it's picking up March, June, the end of September and December.
So this year's losses are not figured in that.
I would guess that's correct.
Yeah, if December
Nothing for
31 was
22.
the last quarter, I think the market was still high in December.
That's correct, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think we have discretion as to what we're going to do, as to how much we take. We have a policy, but we may want to modify that, or modify that given where things are in reality today.
And remember, it does say normally in the course of a year, the library will not draw more than 4.5%. So really that 4.5% is our max that we draw. right? It doesn't say that we do draw all 4.5% of the 12 quarter average. So we should keep that in mind too.
I think when we formulate the budget, particularly on the income side for that line,
Mhm.
to have an idea of what the
Right.
endowment value is of that date and take it into consideration. I agree.
Right. Yep. Because I mean, right now, what's in there is that 57,176, right, Lynn?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So we might want to revisit that.
Well, the numbers are harsh. As of March 31, the market value was 1,003,145. As of April 30, the market value was 1,021,36. That's a loss of $100,000. I emailed Marcinick prior to this meeting, asking him to tell me the value as of close of business today, and he didn't respond. But it's certainly not up. I mean, we all know it's not up. So.
Right. So here you can see underline 4195. We have the 57,175. We had talked, so last year when we did the budget, it was at 54,814.
Yeah, I don't know that anything needs to be done right now, but it's all I'm saying is that I think we ought to keep an eye on that figure because it will have an impact as we go forward.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you. Thanks, Bob. It's a good point. So Ramona, when will we start discussing this budget in earnest for adoption? What is our timing on?
I think that we should aim for, we can discuss it now, it's been in the packet, but I think we should try and well, we should get it to the full board for adoption by their June meeting, by your June meeting, because we don't meet again until September typically. And a fiscal year starts on July 1st.
Okay, and we have no more meetings between this meeting in May and their June meeting. So I think we have to look at it and take some action on it.
Absolutely. And just another item of note, if I could, at the bottom of this page here, line 6240, mortgage principal. Remember that the mortgage on 234 Court Street is paid off in a couple of months. So you'll see that's a much lower expense next fiscal year, and that expense will go away.
What has it been? 1,300 a month, so that's 2 months.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
For 26,83,84.
Yes. Yep.
Well, if we need to act on this today, we need to know what to use as a grants income line and as a grants expenditure line.
Right.
As well as our needing to know and guess, I guess, on what our withdrawal from the endowment might be. Otherwise, we can't complete a budget.
Right.
That we could do that later is bad thinking. We need to do that now. Now, do I need to run that $255,000 through this budget?
The grant money,
Yeah.
I see, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if they're just going to, because we're quasi city, if they're going to keep it in some city account and we use purchase orders and, go out to bid through the city for certain services and whatnot, or if they're going to say, okay, we're going to write a check to the Russell Library Company. As I said earlier, the Office of General Counsel is just not sure how that's going to work yet.
Given our relationship with the city and our concern about money, I would not like to show that $143,000 increasing to $400,000 on this budget.
Right.
I would prefer to to choose a grants amount income which balances grants expenditures.
Yeah.
As we have many times in the past, received other grants in the course of the year and just taken them in and spent them.
Right.
I don't know what the rest of the board, the committee feels about that, but I don't want to throw $255,000 at this thing and
It's
have it wandering around.
right, especially since we don't know if we'll actually
Exactly.
be in possession of those dollars ever. If it'll,
I guess I would leave it out of the budget and amend the at a later time when we know more information.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
okay.
So Lynn, what do you recommend on the income or the expense side of the grants? We need to get those balanced, do we not?
Right, we do. I would almost suggest reducing the grant expenditures down.
Mhm.
Although the budget balances, even though the income is 10 and the expenditures is 25. So you're planning to pay those expenditures from somewhere else, apparently.
Right,
I think what happened, well, one thing we did, if you notice under building maintenance, 5035, we really took a whack at that for a variety of reasons. Yes, compared to
Right.
what we approved in this year and what we've approved in previous years. So we could put it in building maintenance. We can always use it in building maintenance, especially because remember when it for city facilities, you know, or for the city budget, making repairs to the library, we do have a repairs and maintenance line of our operating budget through the city. But when it comes to things related to the Court Street facility, the other Broad Street facility, sometimes it's just easier to expend company funds since those are company-owned facilities.
So so you're saying put all 15 of it here and make 5035 in the draft budget 20,000 as a possibility.
That's the first thing that comes to mind, but I want Lynn to weigh in on this as well as our committee members.
okay. So I was thinking the grant expense would reflect 10,000.
Mhm.
And then the 15,000 would go into the building maintenance as Ramona just suggested.
Yes,
That's what we're saying, correct?
I think that is. And we're
Okay.
saying to leave the interfund transfer at the 57,175 at this time? Or are we saying to reduce that?
good point.
For example, if we wanted to reduce that to 54,814 again, we could pull that out of the 15 we just put in.
Yep.
And make the building maintenance slightly less.
Right.
We could do that. I follow policy. So that's why the number is reflected at 57,000. But if the finance committee approves that,
I think because the 4.5% is a max. It's
mhm,
not an exact, it's just we don't take out more than 4.5%. I certainly understand the concerns of the committee members with the
Right.
market where it is now and with the endowment, you know, having since January, having taken a hit.
okay. So do you want to reduce that to what it is this year at this point? Do we want to do that now?
My own sense is that rather than to arbitrarily pick a number, that we could make a stronger case if we simply said 4% rather than 4.5% or some percentage basis. And it seems to me that in part, I think this is important because at some point, probably in the next year, we're going to, the money issue is going to raise itself quite substantially given a new library or new libraries or major improvements or whatnot. And we need to be prepared to answer a number of questions that people will have about the budget. So I think we've got to be quite careful as to how we define this. And I think Ramona's statement about normally the language it's easier to pick 4% than it is to pick 54, whatever the number is, as
last year, yeah.
Mhm.
Lynn, what would, if you had that sheet in front of you, what would 4% of the rolling average through December 31 have been?
50,823.
52,823?
Nope, 50,823. 50823.
Okay,
so there's roughly $7,000 difference.
Mhm.
yeah, and it's a reduction of 3,000 over last year, or
Yeah.
4,000 over last year.
Right.
I'm comfortable with doing that. If we had to withdraw more for some reason, if the grants didn't come in or if something tanked on us, we could go revisit it. But I think it's more fiscally responsible to use a number like that, given where the market is and where it seems to be trending. Anybody? Wendy, Kellen, your thoughts?
Yeah,
It
I'm
makes
comfortable
sense
with what's,
to me.
go ahead, Wendy.
It would make sense to me to lower the amount.
So just to reiterate the numbers, the 4195 would be 50,823. And 5035 would remain at 20,000. Is that right?
Well, but we'd need to balance that. We'd need to balance out on the.
Oh, yes, you're right.
side,
You need to take
the
the
reduction in
70
transfer.
175 out of there.
Mhm. Yep.
So that would be 20 minus 7175, which would make building maintenance 12,825. Lynn, I'm looking to you to see how far off I am.
Well, I think we have the concept, and why don't we, if we want to approve it, approve the concept and let Lynn and Ramona and others work out the details as to whether it's a 5 or a 6 or something.
Okay. If that's
I'm gonna work on the spreadsheet right while we're talking now. I just need a few minutes here. I'm
so
just
the
gonna mute one
concepts
second.
are reduce 4195 to 4% of the 12 quarter rolling average,
Mhm.
and take any excess engendered by the combination of that loss of 7175 and the 15,000 out of grant expenditures and move that into building maintenance.
Right.
30.
Yes.
I think, right, yeah.
And I stick by my number, Lynn. You go ahead.
She's working on it.
Wait a
Okay.
minute.
Well, I think conceptually we're okay, and you take your time with the math. I don't want to adopt a number which later on we decide wasn't quite right.
Andy,
Yes, Wendy.
don't we have a finance meeting in early June before the board meeting?
Yes,
We do.
Oh, we
So-
do. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
We do.
sorry, we do.
we do.
So,
We
You know,
want
we
to
don't- we
defer
don't
this until
have-
the final numbers?
we don't have to completely finalize it this minute
Oh, I'm
because we could
glad
do it
you
this
mentioned that.
month.
Well, let's request then that Lynn revise it in accordance with these two directions and put it on the agenda for adoption at the June Finance Committee meeting. What is the date of that meeting? Who knows?
June 9th, I think.
June
June 9th.
9th. My sister Amy's birthday.
Oh, and Brandy and I are going to be in New York City that day, along with maybe Eamon, for a Library Journal Design Institute seminar. So we may want to change the timing of that meeting if possible.
Okay, what date is the board meeting that month?
June 21st.
Okay, so we have the next week to kick it into.
Mhm.
Could anybody do it on the 16th? Just bump it a week from the 9th to the 16th? Wendy, Kellen, Bob?
Let me look.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Robert, Wendy?
I think that's all right. Let's see, there's a company
June
meeting.
16th at 4 o'clock. then.
Yeah, the 16th is okay.
Okay, we have time to make that change with the town hall, Lynn?
This
Yeah,
is, this is the 16th of June.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes.
fine with me.
Okay,
Thanks for being flexible, everyone.
okay. I mean, the more gracious thing to do would have been for you to invite us all to join you in New York.
I sent it out.
We'll do it this way.
I don't especially want to go into a big city right now. Thank you.
Me neither.
I'll pass.
Right? There is a chance that at this design institute, our library may be chosen as a case study for a workshop as to, just potential ideas, solutions, just kind of brainstorming things. These design institutes are always fun. So I haven't heard anything yet, but we might be on the docket.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay,
How
so
to change an old
so I'm
library
going to
into a
declare
modern.
Yeah.
without a vote, I'm going to declare the meeting moved to June 16th at 4 o'clock. And I'm going to ask, please, Lynn, for you to revise this budget and put it on the agenda for adoption and circulate it to us in advance.
okay.
To worry about the numbers now. Kellen, we always keep this item on about changing the dates and times on a going forward basis. Is this working out for you?
I am extraordinarily stressed for today's meeting, for this present meeting, but June will be fine, and TBD when we resume in September.
Okay, then I propose no action on item 4D.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. New business, there really were two things. At Bob's suggestion, I asked Robert Marcinek for kind of an update on where he thought the market was going, which he produced a month ago. And I believe it's been circulated in the package, but I don't see that anything he said in there is less true a month later. I don't know if everybody got a chance to take a look at that and have any thoughts and comments on it.
Well, it certainly suggests that making predictions about what's going to happen is fraught with danger because much of what Bob says, which is fine, has come true, but in spades. And I think, to me, it is important reminder that we need to have as a regular item on the agenda of the Finance Committee at least a note to look at what Essex Financial report is on a broad basis every meeting we have, that we should not have a meeting without having some discussion of finances for the endowment.
The market, yeah.
The other point that Bob makes is he is recommending a rather fundamental change in the asset allocations for the endowment by selling two kinds of assets and picking up a third, which would be a commodities mutual fund. And so that's fine. That's what they want to suggest. But if it's an indication that we need to keep this item very much in front of us, especially given the time we're in and given what is likely to be on the agenda for the library in the coming months in terms of how we're going to proceed financially with new projects coming down the pike.
I agree. Lynn, would you add that? Let's just eliminate D, changing the dates, and add a discussion of endowment to item 4 under old business. Let's keep it on there permanently until we get through this crisis.
Okay.
I have not responded to Bob regarding these changes. We have not typically voted on them. We followed their recommendations. And if nobody has any objection, I'll tell him to go ahead and make that move if he hasn't done so already.
On those changes, I think they are authorized, aren't they, to make those changes?
Well, I'll confirm that they do. Yeah, I mean, they discuss it with us, and we don't vote on it, however. Okay, I'll confirm that they've done so. This, is, by the way, is in the very last paragraph of Bob's email here. The other document that I threw in was an article that I found in Business Week on ESG and green investing, and it discusses the same issues that we've discussed at great length. There's nothing new in there, but it kind of says to us that we were in the right spot and we were thinking the right way, and there are good things and there are bad things about them, and they aren't the perfect answer to anything. So I just sent it for your information. I'm going to move on to item number 6, which is the executive session. There are some things I would like to discuss in the executive session, and Ramona as well. Could I have a motion, please, for the committee to move into executive session?
So moved.
Bob has moved it. A second, please. Wendy
Second.
has seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Hey,
Ramona, continue recording? Yes, thank you very much. The final item on the agenda is adjournment. We've run just a little bit over, but we did a lot. May I please have a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting? Bob, again, and Wendy, thank you very much. It's not a motion which permits discussion. All those in favor, aye, please. Signify saying aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, folks, for joining us. Just to remind you, change your calendar.